Marxism 110. The alienation of labor. When I discuss alienation in this current video, it is based upon the condition that capitalism has already been fully developed. That is, that all land ownership is subject to the laws of the market economy. However, private property is the result of the alienation of labor. Private property does not cause the alienation of labor. So the question arises, what is the alienation of labor? The alienation of labor is a situation which exists in our daily lives all around us. We live in a world where the value of commodities constantly increases, the wealth which humanity creates constantly increases in value. But this does not enrich humanity, and the inevitable result is that the value of human life is constantly depreciated the more wealth is created. More humans are subject to grueling conditions, and wages must constantly decrease to keep up with the falling rate of profit. The labor process is the transformation of nature, yet the more the worker transforms nature and conquers the outside world, the more he deprives himself of the means of life. The greater the focus in life is upon work and production, the more mankind becomes appendages to machines. Thus, the object of labor, the human, hates his work, he becomes opposed to his labor process, and he objectifies his work as something other than himself. Humanity is defined by action and the ability to transform nature, but the more humanity is subject to the capitalist productive process, the more his action becomes something which is merely a part of the capitalist production process, and the less it becomes the defining element of his nature. Instead of human action being what defines a human, and being a source of self-affirmation, it becomes a source of destruction and unhappiness. Workers no longer toil to satisfy their desires to work and create, but to keep themselves alive. Thus, the only truly human action, the labor process, becomes separate from humanity. Instead, he only feels human in animal acts such as eating, sleeping, and begetting children. Thus, he might as well be an animal as there is no self-affirmation, no humanity. The dark despair is that true labor is only labor when man produces free from physical need, otherwise the labor process is alienated and an animal process. When work is something which is not the human forfeits his essence and becomes an animal, working purely for biological requirements. Labor, which is the life of the species, becomes only a means to individual animalized life, and the social essence of man becomes a mere instrument of individual existence. Humanity becomes lost and confused in the nothingness and valuelessness of reality. Humanity loses its ability to create value, and free from value, other humans become alien to one another and communal existence is impossible, making life merely an animal existence of conflicting egoisms and selfish battles. If you have aspirations and skills, they are merely elements making yourself as a labor unit more lucrative to a certain buyer, a certain bourgeois appropriator. Thus, in abstract, we see that private property arises as a result of the alienation of labor. One's species' essence is lost, and one's communal existence is forfeited for existence in relation to commodities produced which allow one, with differing grades of efficiency, appropriate the requirements for animal existence. Being wealthy is thus something not found in the spirit or philosophical development, but in one's ability to satisfy one's animal instincts more efficiently than the poor. This phenomenon of private property becomes in turn a source of alienation in the feedback loop. The bourgeoisie becomes capable of utilizing the human objects, that is, objects of production, units of capital expansion. That does not mean the bourgeoisie are free, or that the bourgeois existence is the free existence, and that one ought to embrace master morality as the true source of fundamental value in life. On the contrary, the bourgeoisie are deprived of personality too. As the proletariat become reduced to pure animal condition, the bourgeois become reduced to a personification of their money power. The human qualities of the bourgeois become appropriated by his money power. My power is as great as the power of money. The attributes and essential strength of money are those of myself, its owner. It is not my own personality which decides what I am, and what I can afford. I may be ugly, but I can buy the prettiest woman alive. Consequently I am not ugly, since money destroys the repellent power of ugliness. I may be lame, but with money I can have a coach and six, therefore I am not lame. I may be bad, dishonest, and ruthless and narrow-minded, but money ensures respect for itself and its possessor. Money is the supreme good, and a man who has it must be good also. Thus alienation paralyzes the life essence of humanity and the species, as well as personal life. Thus, in developed capitalist society, servitude of society, and all forms of alienation, are comprised of one's relationship to production. Therefore, the emancipation of the proletariat through a communist revolution is not only the emancipation of the proletariat as a class with particular interests, but the emancipation of all of society, and humanity as a species. However, how do we emancipate the worker? Merely by abandoning private property? It is here that too many bourgeois critics of Marxism fail to grasp the essence of communism. That is because, merely negating private property in the form of primitive totalitarian egalitarianism, which imposes revolution top-down, would result in the foolish abolition of everything which cannot be made the private property of all equally, and therefore everything that may distinguish individuals. Talent and individuality would be destroyed, which is tantamount to abolishing human civilization. This would not be an assimilation of the alienated world, but rather an extreme form of alienation that imposes the present proletarian existence upon everyone in an Orwellian dystopia. Communism, on the other hand, is the positive abolition of private property, and self-alienation by the means of adopting man of his own species essence. It is returning man to his correct standing as a social being. In doing so, the conflicts between man and man, essence and existence, individual and species, freedom and necessity, are resolved. But then, you may ask, does the positive abolition of private property consist in? Consider the abolition of religion. Just as atheism ceases to be significant, when the affirmation of humanity is no longer dependent upon the negation of God, in the same way communism is the direct affirmation of humanity independent of the negation of private property. It is a state in which the problem of private property has been solved, and long forgotten. This process, like the transition from feudalism to capitalism, will inevitably be a long, and sometimes tumultuous process, but its consummation is the complete liberation of man with all his attributes and possibilities. Thus, the resolution to the previous antagonisms, communism, is the direct appropriation of human activity, of labor, not as something alien, but the direct affirmation of the species. Man will be wealthy, and have wealthy needs where the true rich man is at the same time the man needing and desiring the existential manifestations of human life in all their fullness and beauty. Thus we have a new situation, where previously demand for production is artificially aroused by the bourgeoisie to make people dependent, and addicted on more and more useless products. Instead we have a situation, where the wealth of requirements, physical and mental, is truly the wealth of humankind. Thus communism is not an ideal pure and simple, but the postulate of the natural course of history. Capitalism is not a mistake, and is not something which can be corrected, as soon as humanity becomes aware of its situation, but rather a necessary and indispensable condition of future liberation. Communism is the solution to the riddle of history, and is a situation, where humanity is aware of that fact.